Embry-Riddle, very large aviation school. They produce commercial airline pilots, very similar to a college that I went to, University of North Dakota. And looks like while the Thunderbirds were down in Daytona, they gave the president a ride in an F-16, which is, basically what the article is about. And there's a lot of people in the military that do a lot of online stuff. So Embry-Riddle is, has a lot of alumni that are military, even some of the Thunderbirds. And Mace, I wanted to ask you how much. So while the Thunderbirds were there, Embry-Riddle, like a team, like a pilot, a mechanic, they took kind of one from everybody just to want to talk to the like the ROTC kids and stuff for recruiting, since the Thunderbirds is a big driver in Air Force recruiting. I was curious, like how much of the collegiate scene did you guys target? Did you even target it at all? Or is the Thunderbird strictly aerial demonstration to promote the Air Force? Did you guys go to like kids and we'll say young adults?
Yeah.
Kind of like this.
Yeah, no. So the normal show schedule would be on Friday. Before we did a practice, you would go do school visits. And so those would range from high schools to Civil Air Patrol to ROTC detachments. So yeah, that was pretty standard. So you do a lot of that almost every week.
Would you guys divvy it up like, hey, 2 and 3, you're going to go, to the ROTC unit here. Would you guys try to hit up as much as you could? Being at UND, we had the air show there, although they had it at, I think they had it at, the tanker base there, the 135s, but nobody ever came. Nobody from, no, Minot was too far away. No, we had military types come and talk, but we never had the Blues or the Thunderbirds come. And I just read through this article. I thought it was really cool that they took the president up, because then for sure the school paper is going to do an article about it, and sure. They're going to, it's just going to generate a lot of interest in the Air Force. And I guess I was just curious, outside of flying, how much advertising, if you will, for the Air Force is being a Thunderbird.
Yeah, that's the whole Thunderbirding part, as we refer to it. Like, and even when you get hired to the team, or when you're doing hiring for people coming on after you, that's like a big thing that you talk about, is this person might be an exceptional pilot. They're going to do great in the cockpit, but how will they do with the Thunderbirding part?
Right.
And school visits is a huge part of it. Recruitment is one of the main parts of the mission. And then obviously like the inspiration piece of the mission. So we would do everything from school visits, hospital visits. Those went down a little bit with the pandemic, right? And post-pandemic, while I was on the team, because they closed kind of stuff off. But Make-A-Wish would have a tent on Fridays where all of those kids could come with their families and watch the practice with no crowds there.
That's so cool.
Super cool. And then we would land, and instead of going to an autograph line, we would go hang out in the tent for like a half hour. We would just talk to them. Awesome. We would sign things, take pictures. That was like a super rewarding thing that we got to do. And then you have PR events, which is at least one night for every show site. Sometimes there's multiple things. And that's usually sometimes it was just a performers party where it's other air show people, but a lot of times that was open to the public. Mm-hmm. And so you're on for that whole event, because the moment you pick up a cheeseburger to try to take a bite for dinner, if someone's like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And you're like,
and your flight suit won't fit anymore, right? Because it's
that too
tailored. Because
it's a struggle.
Like some of the guys on the team, like when you roll into a town, it's like, "Hey, I went to this college." Did they get to go? Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, and people were always excited to go do that.
That's awesome.
So how did that work? Because they showed the picture of the Thunderbird. Did they bring like a support? How do they have the gear? Like, are they brought everything? Like, is there like a C-17 that follows you around, or because you don't have Fat Albert?
Nope. You basically just answered your own question. Yeah, exactly. We have a C-17. No Fat Albert.
A huge Albert.
Moose. It's a fat moose.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, occasionally we would end up with 2 C-130s if C-17s had taskings because we don't own that aircraft, right? So we're getting it tasked to us through Big Air Force. So it gets pulled to other missions. We're lower priority sometimes. But yeah, AFE Life Support that does all the gear. Yeah. They bring all the stuff for the fan flyers with, and they have to have a pretty wide range of flight suits to fit, because we would fly like a 100-pound gymnast, and then we'd fly like an NFL. Basically, the whole parameters of the ejection seat, whatever the min weight to the max weight is, we would, hit all those. So we have all the sizes of flight suits.
You're hauling around a flight dock too?
Oh yeah.
To do the clearance to go fly. I mean, obviously you're having to do all that like on the spot, which is crazy.
Exactly. So they do a medical briefing with the flight doc. They submit their paperwork in advance.
Oh, okay.
So it's all reviewed. They have their doctor sign off on it, and then the flight doc meets with them, talks about G strain. They get fit for a G suit. And I mean, they're doing it with 1 to 2 people per week, so to speak. So it's a well-oiled machine.
How many, roughly, how many incentive rides would you guys do when you rolled into a location?
Usually 1 per show site was pretty standard.
Okay.
But we might have a hometown hero at some show sites, which is always like the feel-good stories that you'll see them post about, like a firefighter or a teacher of the year, or like there was a teacher that stopped an active shooter, like actually got shot taking him down, and like we flew that person. They like people that have done heroic acts, fly them one day, and then we'll fly more like a public figure the other day, a media person, a celebrity, an athlete, something like that, just for outreach.
Now you didn't, when you got picked up by the team, you didn't, because I think in the Blues, like it depends on which slot you get hired for, determines whether you fly the 2-seat jet. Is that the same in the Thunderbirds?
So any of us could fly the 2-seater, the D model,
right?
But 7 and 8, that's when they're doing the fan flights, the incentive flights, they are flying 2-seaters much more often. The rest of us, it would just be if someone was going to ride in the back seat for the demo, like wing leadership or something like that, or a new hire, or for maintenance reasons, a D model was the only thing available. But it definitely changed how the jet flew. And so every time I got a D model put in my line, I was just like, no, because it just flies a lot different when you're doing maneuvers.
Yes, that is true.
Single seat as it should be. I understand.
I'd rather have the extra gas.
I
mean, no, seriously.
So much hate. I know.
Not only do you lose fuel, but I always felt like, maybe it was psychological, I always felt like I was sitting farther forward and I had less room up front every time.
Yeah, that's true. It's a couple inches. I forget what the exact amount is, but you are closer to the instruments and it feels noticeably more crowded up there.
You don't think so, but then you're like, oh, this sucks. Where's I don't have a lot of room in the first place.
Yeah. And you have to, when you're doing the Thunderbird show, like a practice with General so-and-so in the back seat.
Oh boy.
You have to babysit them a little bit because they're not used to riding, even if they're a fighter pilot, they're not used to riding along and doing a 4-point roll where their head's getting bounced off the canopy, or they're not used to tightening their lap belt until it like digs into their hips and then you flip upside down and their head's smashed against the canopy in the back seat. And so it is a distraction for sure, because you gotta be like, sir, you okay back there? Still awake? Yeah, no.
So we talked about this on the last show. Is it a show must go on, or do you knock it off? Because when we did FAM rides, not incentive rides, when we did FAM rides in the T-38 against the Raptor, we used to brief, unless you are dying and having a medical emergency, we are still going to keep fighting, because it is too expensive for us to stop with Raptor training. We had to keep going. Could you stop, or were you like, sorry, it sucks for you, go call Mike?
So if it's like an incentive flight where it's a number 7 or number 8 are taking that person out just for them, they'll do whatever they need. They'll come back early. They'll do less G's. If we're putting someone in the back seat during an actual practice, either at a show site or back at Nellis, you're not putting just anyone back there. They're usually already a qualified fighter pilot. And if it wasn't already a fighter pilot, we would be like, okay, if say it was like a flight doc or something, we'd be like, okay, how much have they flown in this type of aircraft, whatever. So we tried to mitigate that happening before by kind of screening who we put in the jet.
So these, going back to Gonki's article, are all incentive, right? There's no FAM to any of this. It's just
single ship. They're going to go run through the solo maneuvers. They're not going to fly formation. And then they're going to do like a G warm up, and then they'll do 6 Gs, and then they'll be like, do you want to join the 9G club? And most people are like, well, I'm here. Occasionally people are like, no, like I've had enough. I want to go back.
Did you ever get the bodybuilder type that's like, 9Gs again, let's keep doing this? And you're like, sorry, we're out of gas. We got to go home. I can't do
There's
this.
definitely Definitely some people that are hardcore. Honestly, a lot of like the smaller women are just really good at pulling G's. And so they're just like, let's do it again.
So, okay, well, that's a good question. Were you good at pulling G's?
No, I'm 5'10", so I'm like average height of a guy. So any advantage I had, I think I have like freakishly long arms and legs. So I was probably average at pulling G's.
Yeah.
I was just lazy. I'm like, I don't want to tense up.
It's hard.
Did you have A tags?
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure. That definitely helped.
That helps. I never got to fly with it, but I've heard it's nice.
It helps a ton. And I mean, I have nearly G-locked at altitude during BFM, but on the without A tags, on the Thunderbirds, I'm flying the max turn, hitting 9 Gs, 150 feet off the ground. And so I was, like very cautious in that maneuver to be really on top of the G strain and modulating power if I needed to, because that's a thin margin for error.
Yeah. Awesome.